if partisanship divides us, but politics is the vehicle we use to care, what are some practical ways? How should we be leveraging politics? How involved should we be? You are listening to Above the Divide with Paula Danielle. The church has been divided for too long, and we're here to help us come together. This is season 1, where we're talking about having a faithful posture in a politically hostile world. Now, let's jump into today's show and continue to rise above the divide. Welcome to the first episode of Above the Divide. I am so glad you are here, and I'm excited for today's first guest, my friend and brother, Casey Crimmins.
How's it going, Pastor Paula?
Oh, I'm so good, Pastor Casey. So good, so good. Listen, y'all, before we jump in and I tell y'all why this is my guy, I'm going to go ahead and read you his exact bio.
Oh,
okay?
Thank you.
Okay, the exact bio. So, Casey Crimmins currently serves as COO of FORCLT and has been pastoring in the city since 2014. Casey is also co-founding pastor of Multiply Church, where he leads a local church community that gathers in homes. He has been participating and then leading networks with FORCLT since 2015. Prior to becoming a pastor, Casey worked in the corporate sector for GE Capital for 10 years. I didn't know that.
Yep.
Look at that.
Look at that.
All right. Casey graduated from SUNY
State University of New York.
Okay, New York, stand up.
From the north.
SUNY with a degree in accounting and spent time studying theology at Gordon-Conwell Theological Seminary-Charlotte.
You know.
From 2015 to 2017. Casey is married to Tanya Crimmins and raising 4 incredible children.
Thank you.
Whose energy never seems to cease. Casey
carry
Crimmins
with me.
is amazing. Pastor
Thank you.
Casey,
Yes. How long have we known each other?
We met over coffee.
Right.
And at Cowfish, a restaurant in Charlotte.
Okay.
And maybe it wasn't coffee then, it was lunch.
No, it was lunch. Yeah.
It was lunch. And okay, so y'all, Casey has this energy that gets you to open up and tell things that you really shouldn't be telling people.
It is one of my superpowers. Yeah.
I was like, we met, and
With
I was
great power
like,
comes great responsibility.
you're so pastoral. That's why you're Pastor Casey.
I know.
So pastoral.
That's true.
Listen, I'm excited.
Yeah, me
to
too.
have you here for
this
the
is
first
crazy.
episode.
Yeah, never would have
episode.
thought this would have been the topic.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Yeah.
This is
really?
this is newer for me, for sure.
Okay.
It's a new domain, new mountain,
Okay.
as some people
Okay.
discuss these types of things. So
But-
I'm excited about it.
So Casey is here, and we're going to jump into talking about politics, partisanship, and the pulpit. I know, 3 Ps.
I know.
Doesn't bother anybody
Nope,
ever.
none of those things.
Politics, partisanship, and the pulpit. But before we do, Pastor Casey,
I'm ready.
we're going to start off by playing a game called What's That Mean?
What's that mean?
Because at the end of the day, communication is only as good as the people who are hearing it
Yes.
understand it.
Okay.
So if we do this whole episode and we're talking about 2 different definitions of things, it won't be
Okay.
helpful.
So if I get it wrong, will you correct me?
Well, we're gonna go with your definition because
Okay.
I'm sure
For this episode.
For this
Okay.
episode,
I'm ready.
You're a pretty smart guy, so I trust that you're
We'll see.
gonna get it.
We'll
I mean,
see.
I just read the accolades.
Okay.
Okay, very good. Here we go.
Okay.
All right. What's that mean? In 3 to 5 words, what does the word Christian mean?
Spirit-filled follower of Jesus.
Ooh. And that's 5, ladies and
All
gentlemen.
right, cut it right there. No more.
No more.
No more.
He's already sweating out. Spirit-filled follower of Jesus. I love that.
Okay.
All right. Community.
Sense of belonging with others.
You're gonna do 5 each
I-
time,
that-
aren't you?
you said 5.
I love it. I
What'd
said
you
3
say?
to 5.
3 to
You're
5, yeah.
killing it.
I'm right at the
Sense
edge.
of belonging with others.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. That just came
Yes,
just now.
Yes.
I feel good
This
about
is great.
that. Okay.
This is gonna be threadable. All right, here we go. Love.
Giving yourself away.
Did that in 3. Come on. Can we give them some love, people?
Giving
Giving yourself away.
Yeah.
Yes.
Come on. Cost.
Yes. It's
gotta be a cost of love.
There's got to be a cost of love.
That's
Don't
it.
be cheap.
No.
Don't be cheap.
No.
Not when it comes to love. Giving
Man.
yourself away. That's great.
I was terrified by this
Yo,
game.
you're
This
killing
is
it.
fun so
You're
far.
killing it.
Well, this next one's gonna be tough.
All right, here we go. Politics.
Caring For people in the city. That was 6.
Okay, 5.5.
Yeah.
5.5.
Yeah. I mean, Polos, right?
Yeah.
Like original Greek city. So, yeah.
Caring for people in the city.
Yeah. Yes. That's what it should be.
Okay, so we're gonna come back to this question because then how can Christians not be political? If that's the definition.
Yes.
Woo,
okay. Because I think we define politics very differently. So
all
continue.
right, here we go. All right, last one. Mm-hmm. Partisanship.
Publicly accepted division.
Y'all
you feel good about that one?
Y'all see, y'all hear, hear and see why Casey Crimmins is here. Ooh, Come
thank
on,
you.
sir.
Okay.
Come on. Okay.
We're good.
All right.
Jeez, that was terrifying.
Those are great definitions.
Yeah.
And we want you to make sure to take a note, plug them into your memory because we're going to come back to those words throughout this episode. Okay. And we want to make sure we're on the same page.
Sure.
As we try to help each other to live above the divide. With that said, Casey, I had a professor during my time at Duke. I'm still there. Shout out. Duke Divinity, stand up. He said that if pastors have no other place to influence culture, they should be able to influence it from the pulpit. By the simple fact is they have an hour of a captivated audience. By the simple fact that they have an hour of a captivated audience.
And from that, they should have influence?
They should be able to change the culture in their church. If they can't, then they're not doing it right.
Okay.
What do you think? The pulpit seems to carry a lot of weight, a lot of power, but then pastors would say, but that's not where all the power is. You can't use the pulpit for everything.
Oh, there are pastors that say that?
Yes.
Oh, okay, good. Good.
Yes.
Okay, I wasn't sure which pastors we were talking to.
There are pastors.
There's a few of them in the city.
Okay, well here's the
thing.
And
beyond.
I've been an associate for a while. So, for like 15 years.
Yes.
I've been an associate.
Yes.
And one of the things pastors will always say, well, don't wait for it to come from the pulpit. Just do it. Don't wait for an announcement or a culture. Don't wait for permission from the pulpit. Yeah. What do you think when it comes to pulpit power and politics?
Yeah.
What is a pastor's role in that?
Well, I think it'd be helpful to set some proper parameters around this question.
Okay.
In that most churches in the United States, like 10 years ago, we would have said are under 100. Most churches in the United States now, over 80%, might be closer to 90%, are under 85 people.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
Like even our context, sometimes we just always see through the lens of a large group of people, like showing up on Sunday, there's thousands of people, you're speaking, and hopefully they're carrying whatever that is into the places and spaces versus what most pastors, leading pastors are stepping into on a Sunday morning is like 85 of their like kind of friends or people that they kind of know.
People that they know.
Now there's the itinerancy and different people coming in, church plants, you're starting with your like best friends and people who trust you and then kind of going from there. You know that.
Yeah. Shout out Cohesion.
So I think there's sometimes a unequal understanding of what power the pulpit has in most contexts.
Okay.
Because I have influence and power is the wrong word, influence across a cup of coffee.
You do.
If I have a cup of coffee with 5,000 people in a year, that's a lot of influence.
That's a lot of coffee.
It is a lot of coffee.
Casey, you do have a lot of meetings, but 5,000?
No, I made that up. It's not 5,000 for sure.
Okay.
I'll do the math sometimes. But on a Sunday morning, like let's just talk even sociology just for a moment and psychology. On a Sunday morning, you preach for 45 minutes. Let's just pretend.
And that's a longer sermon.
30 to 45 minutes. People are walking out retaining 10% of what you just said.
Facts.
They will remember more of the feeling of the service, not necessarily the messaging of the service. So, I mean, I know pastors, and I love pastors. I am a pastor. I'm the biggest fan and cheerleader for the pastors of our city and beyond. But there is a disproportionate amount of pressure, I feel, on the Sunday morning message because most people, like, in the moment, they're like, oh, yes. And then I'm like, hey, so what was that message on Sunday? And they're like, wait, let me remember who preached. And it's like, oh, gosh. Because
people, it just slips.
Well, how many YouTube videos did they watch between that Sunday at noon till Sunday at 9 a.m. when they're on their way to church?
Yes.
1,000.
Yeah.
And they're remembering the cool cat trick more than they are like the 3 points in a close that they just heard the Sunday before. So I do think there is weight, and I think it's more of the general tones of a year.
Okay.
and the years, not the 3 points that crushed it on whatever it might be that builds the culture.
That leans into what you said a few sentences back. You said people will remember the feeling more than they will remember the point.
Yep.
And the tone that is set over a year.
Yes.
And one of the pastors in our city said that if every church in America was discipling their congregation to love throughout the year and years, we would not have to concentrate on it 3 months before an election. What are your thoughts?
Well, yes. Like you're knocking at a door that behind it is like a massive building, which is this discussion on discipleship.
Yes.
Which isn't the topic at hand.
No.
But it all falls under this. Like, what are we discipling our people to?
Yeah.
And so tone, feeling, emotion. Like if the morning of the politics discussion, I walk out feeling afraid. If I walk out feeling despair, if I walk out feeling hopeless, even though I was in church, it's what just happened here? If I walk out even overly triumphant, I would say is probably not the right emotion. Overly like, we're going to take this, we're going to do this, like that kind of beat your chest and bang down the door versus a sense of like non-anxious presence.
So how do we do that? If we're talking about politics in a culture that is very anxious.
Yes.
About, first of all, go back to your definition of politics. Give it to us again. Do you remember?
Caring for people in the city.
Caring for people in the city.
Yes.
So we have a definition that says caring for people in the city, and then we have partisanship, which is
justified, socially acceptable division.
Socially acceptable division.
I hope that's right. Play it back. Yeah, I think it's close. Yeah, it's very close.
All right, caring for people and others, socially justified division.
Yes.
And then we seem to have politics that feed into partisanship and partisans. So where is the separation for the Christ follower? Where is the separation for the Spirit-filled Jesus follower? Is there one?
Yes.
Okay.
Spirit-filled follower of Jesus. We're cheating on this a little bit because we had a slight discussion ahead of time, and I happened to have just stepped off the stage last night with politics and faith.
Yeah.
As a panel, there are two planes, and this is where Scripture has to like be real to us, or it's not.
Yeah.
Like either it's the truth or it's not.
Yeah.
And the truth of like you're in this world, but you're a citizen of heaven. Like you're in this world, you're not of this world. You're doing the thing, like pay your bills.
Right,
like,
please.
Hey, pay your taxes.
Please.
Render unto Caesar. Yeah, we need it. Like, that's it. And understand that there is a bigger reality to all of this that doesn't take earthly sides. And I think that's where the socially acceptable division comes into play, where we get fooled.
Yes.
I would just say, like, and I've guilty of this all the time. Like tribalism is baked into us.
It is.
Like
it is. We go with where we feel most comfortable.
Yeah. I mean, echo chambers are real.
Yes. Yes. Ask any algorithm.
Yeah. Bias of confirmation bias, like all that stuff's legit. Like our brains crave that. But we're in two different planes. So as a Spirit-filled follower of Jesus, like Jesus is King, Jesus is Lord. My citizenship is there.
Yep.
So I'm never going to come into agreement with the world that I've departed from. And the problem is the way partisanship plays itself out in politics is it's asking you, most of the time, through a diet of fear, just a very regular diet of fear, come down here, pick a side, because the other side, if you vote for them or align with them or say anything even in the stratosphere close to them, like you're going to become the enemy. So stay close. Stay real close. And as followers of Christ, I mean, this is not new.
Yeah.
This is, and we talked about some of the books that we've read.
Yep.
Like this has been going on for decades.
Correct.
Very, whether intentional or not, I don't know, but very slow progression to a moment that we all of a sudden we go, oh my gosh,
how we get here?
How are Christians so aligned with just one side, or Christian evangelicals so aligned with this, and other people are like, and it's like, dude, this has been going on for a long time.
It's not new.
No.
Yeah, it's not new, and it wasn't by accident.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure not.
Yeah, it wasn't by accident. So if partisanship divides us, but politics is the vehicle we use to care.
Yeah.
What are some practical ways? how should we be leveraging politics? How involved should we be?
Great question.
Especially from the pulpit. Because I know there are a few topics, Casey, that pastors have no problem dealing with from the pulpit.
Correct.
But those are often hot button issues, and there's many more that are political. So what is happening from the pulpit with politics that helps us actually care for our neighbor?
Yeah. So this is where the discipleship conversation comes into play. But I also think that the pulpiting of messaging is something to talk about. So, like, the holistic nature of our following of Christ, like spirit-filled people following Christ, there's like progressions of calling. Like, you have the call to God.
Okay. Yep.
Like, who is God? Who am I? Who am I in light of him? The call to make disciples.
Yes.
Like, that you can't really escape those words.
Nope.
Now, how you define it, go for it. But to take this message out, and then there's like the tertiary call, which is, what is the kingdom calling that God, like the thing that breaks your heart that doesn't break anybody else's heart, like the thing that makes you cry. There's just like, oh my gosh, and the progression through that is important. Almost like in the 12-step program. The reason why you do a lot of work on yourself first before you go try to make amends with someone else.
Right.
Because instead of making amends, you just make a mess.
Yeah. That's good. That's good.
And so the progression of like understanding who we are, understanding identity, understanding who he is, move into, okay, how do I like replicate not my preferences, not my things, but like people of Jesus. And then, man, what is breaking my heart? Racial justice and reconciliation, justice for the poor, justice for the disenfranchised, like whatever it is.
Yes.
And sometimes we just skip over to here, and we're bringing all of the things that have not been worked out yet into those spaces and places, and politics is one of them.
That's good.
So we walk in like unformed, uninformed, and saying things or repeating things that we are hearing from Christian leaders or whatever, without taking the moment to be like, is that kingdom? Or is that partisanship of a alignment because of political thing, like whatever? And I think we've shortchanged people in their ability to have that filter most of the time.
Okay.
I don't know if you agree with that.
Yeah, that's good. So you're saying we move from making a decision to follow Jesus.
Now go do a bunch of stuff.
Go do a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
But we don't take the time to actually develop kingdom character.
The formation period, yes.
The spiritual formation part.
Most often we are pushing people into, and not to say like you can't, feed people, clothe people, like that's like low hanging fruit.
Right.
But in terms of like the deep engagement and then how you walk that out, if you're called to a political position, if you're called into social spaces, work for the city, do whatever, you bring whatever your kingdom culture or lack of kingdom culture into that. Mm-hmm. And so if it's unformed, then now you're carrying the banner of Christ. I'm a Christian.
Right.
And I see this far too often, like carry the sign that says Jesus saves, but don't really know what that means holistically.
Yeah. What does that mean holistically?
Well, what was God's mission? What would you say the mission of God is?
I go to Luke 4, 18 through 19.
Oh, I like Luke 4.
Yeah, I go to Luke 4 when Jesus was in the temple and they gave him the scroll of Isaiah.
Right?
And
this is fulfilled in front of you today?
That's it.
So, yeah, I would say just the short, I don't know if it's 5, like the reconciliation of all things.
Okay, yep.
Like the redemption of all things. One of those R's. Either reconciliation or redemption.
But I don't think you can have one without the other.
Of course. Just semantics. Of all things. So that means me, and that means you, and that means the planet, and that means the creation, that means everything.
Yes.
So how do I find myself holistically stepping into whatever my specific thing is while not pressing against someone else's movement towards that in another category?
You're saying there can be more than one thing? All the Christians don't have to agree on the same thing?
I'm going to tell you right now, that's not going to happen. And that's not the plan.
It's not the plan. Because sometimes we act like all the Christians, if you're a Christian, then you vote this way. And if you're a Christian, you vote that way.
And you do this thing or you hold this thing.
Right.
I'll tell you, my dear friend, co-laborer in the Seminary-Charlotte space, Rob Kelly, came up with this kind of concept of the 4 greats. Mm-hmm. It's being pushed out into languages that I don't speak at this point because it's been so powerful, where he talks about the Great Commandment, the Great Commission, the Great Compassion, and then the great collaboration.
Yes.
And that these 4 greats of the New Testament church moving forward is the holistic, if we seek these things and respect it, sometimes I ain't going to be in your circle, and that's okay. Like, be great compassion, and I'm going to be great commission, and that's cool, versus me going, it's only the great commission. It's only the great commission. It's only this, and if you're not doing this, then you're not Christian. That speaks to also the APES, like fivefold ministry stuff, but I think the nuance of it, go back to the political discussion. Like, sometimes people are in those places and spaces to see the great compassion rolled out in a way that's very unique and special. Sometimes they're in that place to see the great commission rolled out, and then the great commandment. Like, how do you love people better? Like, how does politics help you love people better? And I think it can, with the right lens.
Great commandment, great commission, great compassion, great collaboration.
You like those?
That's beautiful.
Yeah,
That's
and it's
beautiful.
it's like a Venn diagram. Again, Rob Kelly, a brilliant guy.
So we have an episode coming up that's called the three-stranded cord.
Okay.
That talks about the first 3, and uses proverbs like a three-stranded cord is stronger, cannot be broken. Thank you. And so that is coming up later in the season. So make sure to click like, click subscribe. And join in for that episode. But because I had never heard the 4th one, but you're right, because that speaks to
John
unity
17.
in Ephesians John 17, like we're drinking from, right? But
it's like we put it there.
I think we missed that.
Yeah. Because I would put myself like that's
or we put our soapbox on one, like you were saying,
and
forget that
we
the
said
rest
that,
exists.
And since collaboration is a lot of what I do, I have to subservient a lot of my deeply held values in the other things in order to try to find cohesion.
Yes. Casey, we've talked about how politics and the posture of politics and partisanship. Should a pastor confront political issues from the pulpit?
Well, what do you mean confront? Because
should they? Okay,
let's go to very specific like actions.
Should they talk about? Should they preach on political issues from the pulpit? And I realize I'm asking a very broad question.
Yeah, because the answer is like yes. Because there's so much of our theology wrapped up in how laws are created or what laws are out there and that. But
then how do we treat them equally?
How do we treat what equally?
The political. Okay, so the debate between Trump and Harris. Yes. Right? They had specific categories.
Was there a debate recently?
Just a small one. They had specific categories that they were going to speak to.
Hot button.
And really, traditionally, we know when there's a presidential debate, these are the topics that they're going to hit.
Let's talk about abortion. Let's talk about immigration. Let's
climate
talk about
change.
Climate change.
Racism, gun control. Right, is on there. So there are specific ones that political pundits are going to speak to.
Right.
Should the pulpit be doing the same thing? Should pastors be addressing those same topics from the pulpit on Sunday morning, and you're taking a 30-minute message to address these issues?
This sounds like a yes or no question.
And if so, then let me change it. Let me change it for our audience. If so, how?
Yeah. I would say yes, insofar as the Spirit, because Christians are Spirit-filled followers of Jesus.
Correct.
Is leading us to for the context that they find themselves in. Because there are some places like just because it's right doesn't mean it's going to be helpful for the community that finds itself.
Come on, Threads.
There we go.
Just because it's right doesn't mean it's going to be helpful.
And so I think it's hard to go through Romans and not talk about reconciliation. It's hard to go through Ephesians, not talk about racial reconciliation, like very, very clearly. Do we talk about immigration through the lens of like the Book of Revelation? I don't think so. But it's
Can we talk
definitely
about it through the
all
birth
through
of
the
Jesus?
entire. I was about to say the entire like story of Jesus,
Any of the Gospels,
Old Testament. That's what I'm saying. Like if you're like, and by the way, here's a biblical framework.
Yes.
And then posture. So he like,
come on.
Like I heard this from another pastor. Like there's a posture, there's a position, and then there's a policy.
That's it.
And starting first with like, what is our posture? Like what posture of humility can we bring to a topic like immigration? Like that, just be honest, like not all of us have all the angles here.
Correct.
Because first generation, second generation, where you're coming from, why you're coming there. the history of like America would not be what it is without
immigrants.
These open doors. But at the same time, no one wants to be crazy about it.
Right.
Like, let's not be irresponsible. Right. But I don't know what that line is because I'm not there.
Right. Correct.
And go topic by topic. Like, what is the posture? Is it worth being right, or is it worth being loving? Like, what are we after here?
Let that breathe. Is it worth being right? And I said it funny, but dead serious. Is it worth being right, or is it worth being loving? Because I don't know if we were called to be right about everything, but we were called to be loving in everything.
Correct.
Yeah. Posture. Sorry, I interrupted you.
No,
Keep going.
I mean, you have a posture, and I forget the things now. Posture, position is kind of like, okay, here's where we stand up. But then, like, okay, what is the policy that then comes out, like birthed out of those things that a Christian gets behind?
Yes.
Well, as long as they've done these two things really well, like, yeah, okay.
And the policy may not line up with your party.
And it's never going to be right. It's never going to be fully right.
Neither party, and I know we're not glossing over the independents and everybody else, but the major parties, neither party aligns with what God has laid out for us. So it's never going to be 100% policy party.
Correct. And the problem is the partisanship of the political ecosystem has pushed us to that place. This is not like shocking news to anybody.
Right.
The polarization, the other P, is there. And so we have to figure out as Christians, as spirit-filled followers of Jesus, like, what does faithfulness look like in entering those conversations? What is like the hard work of sitting with people that you just don't agree with a lick of where they're at, but you can still love them?
And that goes back to what you said earlier about dealing with me first.
Yes.
Dealing with me first. Where is my fruit of the Spirit?
That's why the 12 steps starts with you.
It starts with you. Listen, but posture.
Yeah. Position.
Policy. And policy.
Mm-hmm.
Posture, position, policy.
Yeah.
Partisanship is not in there because at the end of the day, we were not called to be divisive.
Correct.
Or to be in divisions.
Correct.
But policy does affect lives.
It does.
It does.
And we need really smart, amazing people trying to figure that stuff out, because that ain't me.
Yeah. Do you have a final thought for us?
Yeah, I appreciate that, Paul. This has been super fun. Thank you. But yeah, I just say in this season, as we're stepping into the election season, and as if you were someone that followed Jesus right now, like increasing your sensor for when you are walking out of fear, or when you are being fed fear as the motivation for whatever it is you're doing, whatever politician, whatever policy, whatever thing, like that should be much more of what we are looking for as we enter this season of that's just not who we are supposed to be. We're called to love, and it says that perfect love casts out
all of it, all fear,
and not the other way around. So it's my final thought.
That's a great final thought. Listen, as you go about this week, we want you to remember that perfect love casts out all fear.
All fear.
Fear will lead to division, and it will stop us from living as God has called us to live. Yeah. We are called to live, as Casey said earlier, great commandment, great commission, great compassion, and great collaboration. Before we sign off, don't forget, click like, click subscribe. If it was helpful, share it with someone you know, and we'll be back again next week with episode 2. Don't forget to live above the divide. Thank you for joining us for this episode of Above the Divide. Above the Divide is sponsored by Cohesion, a church creating community, unifying the body, and equipping its people. If this content is helpful, subscribe to the channel and share it with someone else. We look forward to being together again on Tuesday for our next episode. Have a great week.